know?
Jasmine mentioned you, by the way.
Me?
Oh, yeah, you.
Whoa.
She mentioned you sitting at her bar. So it's
Oh,
like,
man, these. I think Kirk was going down like the Titanic, slowly. He hit that iceberg. He looked to the left and was, Mendeecees. And Mendeecees was like, boy, ain't got nothing to do with that.
I didn't know who she was. Till somebody had to say, that's Kirk, baby mother. And I never went back. We never had 2 words.
Can I ask you one question? Where the hell is your ring at?
Don't do Kirk.
I lost it.
Oh, my God.
The moment the voicemail leaked, everything exploded. Phones were buzzing, group chats were melting, and Atlanta was on fire. One minute, Kirk Frost was sitting comfortably at Frost Bistro, thinking he had everything under control. And the next minute, Mendeecees Harris was storming through the doors like a man who had finally reached his breaking point. And trust me, this wasn't a conversation. This was war. The rumors had been bubbling for weeks, whispers of private meetings between Kirk and high-powered attorney Kendra Robinson, whispers that young Jock tried to ignore, whispers that Rashida definitely felt in her spirit. But when that voicemail dropped, the one where Kirk's tone didn't sound like business at all, it confirmed the one thing nobody wanted to believe. Something was going on behind the scenes. And Kirk was right in the middle of it. Mendeecees didn't ask questions. He didn't wait. He didn't text. He pulled up immediately, ready to check Kirk in front of everybody and make it clear, if Kirk had anything to do with Kendra's marriage problems, things were about to get ugly. And the way Kirk froze, stuttering, sweating, trying to talk his way out, it was obvious. He was hiding something. And tonight, it finally came out. Long before Mendeecees stormed into Frost Bistro, ready to tear into Kirk Frost like a man possessed, the tension between these two had been simmering beneath the surface for years, silently building like a pot left on the stove until it finally boiled over. Their history was complicated, not enemies, not best friends, but 2 men who understood each other because they both had spent years navigating messy relationships, blended families, public drama, and the kind of problems only reality TV could amplify. Mendeecees always kept his distance from Kirk's scandals, even when Jasmine and Cannon turned Atlanta upside down, even when Rashida cried on national TV, even when Kirk became the poster child for cheating husbands everywhere. Mendeecees would shake his head from afar, refusing to get dragged into Frost's chaos. And truth be told, he never trusted Kirk completely, not because of jealousy or beef, but because he saw a pattern in Kirk. Every time drama started, Kirk would smile, smooth talk, and wiggle his way out without ever taking responsibility. But this situation with Kendra Robinson, this wasn't Kirk embarrassing himself or Rashida. This time, Kirk had crossed into someone else's marriage, someone who actually had something to lose. Because Kendra wasn't just another Love and Hip Hop cast member. She was a respected attorney, a woman who built her entire career brick by brick, grinding through law school, building her reputation in the courtroom, becoming young Jock's wife, and fighting tooth and nail to separate her professional life from the messiness of reality TV. And she had trusted Kirk professionally. She had taken legal meetings with him. She had helped him navigate business issues. But what no one knew was how often they were meeting, how long they were talking, how private those conversations were becoming. When young Jock and Kendra got married, Mendeecees respected their bond deeply, especially because Kendra had once helped him with legal issues. She had been in his home, around his family, giving him advice. She had been a trusted ally. So when he heard whispers, real whispers, about Kirk and Kendra having extra business meetings, his stomach dropped. The same Kirk Frost who couldn't hold a professional boundary to save his life? The same Kirk Frost who had built a reputation for crossing lines? Mendeecees wasn't about to ignore that. But things got personal when Kendra's behavior started changing. She got distant from Jock. She got defensive when he asked questions. She snapped at him over small things. She spent more time in her office after hours. She started guarding her phone. Jock brushed it off at first, but Mendeecees didn't. He had been that man caught in the middle of lies and secrets. He could see the signs. So when someone from production anonymously told Mendeecees, "Hey, you might want to check on Kendra. She meeting Kirk a lot more than usual," the switch flipped instantly. But the breaking point came when Mendeecees overheard Jasmine Washington, of all people, running her mouth about seeing Kirk and Kendra together after hours. And that was when all the old resentment Mendeecees had toward Kirk came roaring back. He remembered how Jasmine had dragged Kirk through the mud. He remembered Kirk pretending he didn't know who she was. He remembered how Kirk lied to Rashida for months. He remembered the pattern. Kirk always claimed innocence until he was caught red-handed. Mendeecees wasn't about to let Jock go out sad the way Rashida had. So he started asking questions quietly. He checked timelines. He checked filming schedules. He talked to people who saw things. And then he found out the one thing that made his blood boil. Kendra had been doing legal work for both him and Kirk at the same time, without telling either of them. That was not normal. That was not professional. That was not okay. For Mendeecees, that was the moment everything clicked. Kendra wasn't the problem. Kirk was. Kirk was the common denominator, the magnet for mess, the man who always found himself tangled in situations that didn't make sense until you stepped back and saw the bigger picture. So, by the time the voicemail leaked, Kirk's voice low, weirdly flirty, saying things no married man should say, Mendeecees didn't hesitate. He had spent years avoiding Kirk's mess, but now it was in his circle, in Jock's marriage, in Kendra's career. And once Mendeecees Harris decides he's stepping into something, nobody is safe. The real explosion in this storyline didn't happen when Mendeecees confronted Kirk at Frost Bistro. That was just the spark. The fire started long before that moment, when small whispers, sneaky meetings, and secret messages began weaving a web of suspicion so thick it was only a matter of time before everything blew up. It all started when young Jock noticed Kendra changing, not in a dramatic, obvious way, but in the subtle shifts only a husband would pick up. She started staying later at work. Her phone was constantly face down. She suddenly had private client calls she couldn't take in front of him, and every time Jock asked who the client was, she brushed him off with a vague, "It's business, babe." At first, Jock chalked it up to stress. Kendra's a high-powered attorney, after all. But when her tone shifted from stressed to guarded, and from guarded to irritated whenever Kirk's name came up, Jock's instincts started buzzing. At the same time, Mendeecees was noticing the same energy. Kendra was handling some of his legal matters, and she started canceling meetings, pushing deadlines, and acting nervous anytime he asked if she was working with anyone else. Then, in a moment that changed everything, Mendeecees overheard Jasmine Washington telling someone in the club that she saw Kirk and Kendra looking real comfortable at a bar, not a meeting room, not an office, but a bar. Jasmine wasn't exactly a trustworthy source, but the tone in her voice was too confident, too specific, and the timing matched the days Kendra had claimed she was working late. Mendeecees didn't run to Jock immediately. He wanted proof. He started digging quietly, asking production about filming schedules, checking old footage, talking to people who had seen things. And what he found was the first major crack. Kendra had been advising Kirk on several undisclosed legal matters, but none of them were documented. No invoices, no paper trail, no official notes, just private conversations and off-the-record advice. Then came the email, a leaked anonymous message sent to several cast members, including Mendeecees. claiming that Kirk had been confiding in Kendra about personal issues he couldn't talk to Rashida about. That's when Mendeecees snapped. He knew Kirk's history, how he used emotional vulnerability as a gateway, how he blurred lines between personal and professional, how he always managed to turn business into scandal. So he decided to confront Kirk privately before things spiraled further. He pulled up on Kirk at the studio, expecting honesty. But when he asked Kirk face to face what was going on with Kendra, Kirk did what Kirk always does. He started stumbling. "Bruh, it ain't even like that. We just talking business. She helping me sort out a few things. It's nothing major." But Mendeecees knew a guilty man when he saw one. He pressed harder. "So why you meeting her off the books? Why she lying to her husband? Why she changing her schedule around you?" Kirk panicked, started getting defensive, talking in circles, repeating himself. Mendeecees left that meeting furious, convinced something shady was happening. But then the voicemail dropped. An anonymous source leaked a voicemail to production, and it spread like wildfire. It was Kirk's voice. He wasn't slurring, he wasn't drunk, he wasn't stressed. He was smooth, low, flirtatious, saying things like, "You know I appreciate you more than they do," and "I can't talk about this at the house. You already know how that goes." And the worst one? "We just gotta move carefully so nobody gets the wrong idea." That voicemail hit Mendeecees like a truck. He didn't call. He didn't text. He didn't wait. He marched straight into Frost Bistro, chest tight, temper boiling, ready to check Kirk in front of everybody. And when he walked into that restaurant and saw Kirk laughing like everything was normal, the rage exploded. Mendeecees stepped right up to him, slammed his phone on the table, and hit play. The entire lounge went quiet. Every fork paused midair. Every head turned. Kirk went pale instantly. His eyes darted around like he was searching for an escape route. But there was no escape. Mendeecees leaned in, voice low and deadly. "You got one chance to tell me what this is, before I take it to Jock myself." People gasped. Workers backed away. Kirk started sweating. He stuttered, saying the voicemail was taken out of context, that it wasn't what it sounded like, that he and Kendra were just talking business. But Mendeecees wasn't buying a word of it. He grabbed Kirk's arm and whispered, "If my wife was talking to another man like that, I'd burn this place down. So what you think Jock gon' do when he hears it?" But here's where the first shocking twist hit, something that flipped the entire situation on its head. As Mendeecees was going off, someone stepped in behind him, someone unexpected. Someone who should not have had the voicemail in the first place. Rashida. She walked into the restaurant looking furious but composed, and the way she looked at Kirk said everything. She didn't yell. She didn't swing. She didn't cry. She simply looked at Kirk and said, "So you weren't gonna tell me you called her?" Mendeecees froze. Kirk froze. The entire lounge froze. Because in that moment, it became clear Rashida had known about the voicemail before Mendeecees did. Not only that, she was the one who sent it to him. Rashida had set the entire confrontation up on purpose. Why? Because she wanted the truth to come out in a way Kirk couldn't wiggle out of. She wanted him cornered. She wanted Kendra exposed. She wanted Jock to know. And Rashida, quiet, loyal, long-suffering Rashida, was done covering for her husband. This time, she was the one dropping bombs, and the fallout was only beginning. The second Rashida stepped into Frost Bistro with that calm but deadly look on her face, the entire energy in the room shifted like a storm had just rolled in. Kirk's eyes went wide. Mendeecees turned around slowly, and the crowd inside the restaurant went silent. Because everybody knows when Rashida walks in without warning, somebody's life is about to get flipped upside down. She didn't even acknowledge the voicemail playing on Mendeecees' phone. She already knew what it said. She knew who leaked it, and she knew why she was standing there. She looked at Kirk like she was staring through his soul, and then she said the line that made everybody gasp. "I told you I was done protecting you from your own mess." That's when Kirk froze. Mendeecees stepped back in shock, and the whispers started flying. This entire time, Kirk thought he was dancing around the truth, lying just enough to keep Rashida calm, Mendeecees at bay, and young Jock clueless. But Rashida had been 3 steps ahead. Months ago, she noticed the weird phone calls, the private conversations, the way Kirk got defensive whenever she mentioned Kendra's name. She didn't blow up. She didn't argue. She didn't pack her bags. She simply flipped into silent investigation mode, watching, listening, collecting. She knew Kirk better than anyone, and she knew the difference between business stress and cheating energy. So when Kendra started acting distant with Jock, and rumors about Kirk and her started leaking around Atlanta, Rashida started doing what she does best, staying quiet while letting the truth walk right to her front door. And when she finally got her hands on the voicemail, that same one Mendeecees was now holding, she didn't release it out of spite. She released it for one reason, so she wouldn't be the one confronting Kirk. She wanted him to feel the pressure from someone he couldn't manipulate. She wanted him to be cornered by someone he couldn't cry to. She wanted him to face a man who wouldn't sugarcoat the truth. Enter Mendeecees. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Rashida didn't send the voicemail to Mendeecees out of anger toward Kirk. She sent it because she had already found something worse. Something she didn't want to reveal until she watched Kirk try to lie one more time. So when Kirk looked at Rashida and whispered, "Babe, it's not what it sounds like," she pulled a folded piece of paper out of her purse and slapped it onto the table so hard the salt shakers jumped. Mendeecees snatched it up, and his jaw dropped. It wasn't a text message. It wasn't a voicemail. It was a printed email. An email from Kendra, sent to Kirk a week earlier. The subject line, "We need to talk privately. Jock is starting to ask questions." The room lost it. Mendeecees almost threw the table across the room. People screamed. Jock's cousins, who happened to be eating in the back of the restaurant, stood up ready to fight. But Rashida wasn't done. She reached back into her bag and pulled out a second printout, a calendar screenshot showing multiple private meetings between Kirk and Kendra that happened at night, not during business hours, not at a law office, not at a workspace, but at different locations, quiet lounges, a rooftop bar, and even a random Airbnb. Mendeecees stared at Kirk like he was ready to choke him out. "This ain't business," he growled. "This is spending time." Kirk looked like he was about to faint, but then Rashida said the line that detonated the second major twist. "And I know exactly who helped you." Mendeecees snapped toward her. "Helped him what?" Rashida took a deep breath, looked Kirk dead in the face and said, "Tell him who booked those Airbnbs, or I will." Kirk went pale. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Rashida folded her arms. "Oh, so now you can't talk." Mendeecees slammed his hand on the table. "Kirk, who booked the rooms?" And then Rashida dropped the bomb that blew the entire situation wide open. It wasn't Kendra. It wasn't Kirk. It was someone else. Before anyone could speak, she said the name that made half the restaurant gasp, and the other half stand up like they were about to run out the door. It was young Jock's assistant. Yes, the same assistant Kendra had fired months earlier for unprofessional behavior. The same assistant who had access to Jock's calendar, Kendra's calendar, and confidential legal information. The same assistant who had gone missing from the show after a sudden HR dispute. That assistant had been secretly scheduling meetings, forwarding messages, and manipulating communication to make Kirk and Kendra look like they were sneaking around, even when they weren't. Mendeecees staggered back. Kirk nearly collapsed, and Rashida whispered, "Yeah, it was a setup, but not by who you think." But then she added the line that flipped everything again. The assistant wasn't working alone. Mendeecees grabbed his head. "Who else? Who?" Rashida stared at him, eyes narrowing. "Who benefits most from tearing down Kendra and blowing up you, Kirk and Jock, all at once?" And then the door to Frost Bistro opened, and the person stepped inside. The moment that restaurant door swung open, every head inside Frost Bistro snapped toward the entrance. Every conversation died instantly, and the entire energy shifted like lightning had struck in the middle of the room, because standing there, calm, collected, and looking like they had been waiting for this exact moment, was Sierra Gates. The shock that washed over the crowd was unreal. Phones dropped. People covered their mouths. Even Mendeecees whispered, "Ain't no way." Sierra stepped inside like she owned the building, chin high, eyes locked straight on Rashida first, then slowly shifting to Kirk, and finally landing on a frozen as a statue, Kendra Robinson, who had just walked up behind Jock after hearing the commotion outside. This wasn't just drama anymore. This was betrayal layered on betrayal. 3 households on fire, and a mastermind walking into the room ready to watch the whole thing burn. Sierra didn't yell. She didn't cry. She didn't scramble for excuses. Instead, she smirked, a cold, confident smirk that told everyone in the room she knew exactly what she had done, and the fallout hit like a bomb. Jock stumbled backward, staring at Sierra like she had stabbed him in the chest. "You?" he shouted. "You did all this? You the reason my marriage going through hell?" Sierra didn't flinch. "Your wife humiliated me publicly," she snapped back. "She cost me clients, dragged my name, tormented me for a whole season. Y'all think I forgot?" The room erupted into chaos. Kendra's eyes filled with rage as she stepped forward, trembling. "So you tried to ruin my career, my marriage?" Sierra held up her hand like she didn't care who was yelling. "Kendra, you've been talking crazy about me for years. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences?" Jock's assistant, the same one behind the fake bookings, had been sitting quietly near the bar the entire time, shaking like a leaf, because now the truth was out. Sierra had used her. Sierra had manipulated her. Sierra had paid her to stage the entire setup. Fake meetings, fake emails, fake timelines, fake panic. Mendeecees exploded first. "You dragged me into this? For what? What the hell did I do to you?" Sierra shrugged like it was no big deal. "Collateral damage. You were in the way." The entire restaurant went wild. People screaming, chairs scraping, security stepping in. Jock grabbed his head, pacing back and forth, repeating, "I can't believe this. I can't believe this." Kendra was crying and shaking. Her reputation, her marriage, and her career all nearly destroyed because someone wanted vengeance. And Kirk? Kirk looked scared. Not because he was innocent, he never is, but because he finally understood the depth of the trap he'd walked into. Sierra continued, voice steady and merciless. "Kirk, you're messy, but you're not stupid. I knew you would take the bait." All it took was a little scheduling confusion and a few flirty messages sent from an unknown number, and you fell right into the narrative I needed. Rashida looked like she was about to pass out. "So you framed my husband again?" Sierra raised a brow. "He made it easy. I didn't have to create the voicemail. He already said reckless things. I just sent it to the right person." Mendeecees slammed his hand on the table. "So you recorded him? You?" Sierra nodded, unapologetic. He didn't know he was on speaker. The fallout rippled like a shockwave. Jock turned to Kirk, fury in his voice. "So you were talking reckless to my wife? That wasn't edited?" Kirk's silence said everything. And just like that, the betrayal multiplied. It wasn't just Sierra's setup. It was Kirk's stupidity, Rashida's desperation, Mendeecees' loyalty, Kendra's confusion, and Jock's boiling anger all hitting the room at once. Social media exploded within minutes. Someone had already recorded the confrontation and posted the clip. Comments flooded in. Sierra really the villain? Kirk always finds a way to ruin something. Kendra didn't deserve this. Young Jock better handle this. Meanwhile, in the bistro, the emotional explosion continued. Jock lunged toward Kirk, screaming, "You disrespected my wife!" Security held him back. Kendra cried, "This could have ended my bar license." Rashida grabbed her forehead, muttering, "I should have left you years ago." Mendeecees kept repeating, "This is why I stay out of y'all's mess." And Sierra? She turned to leave, tossing one final grenade over her shoulder. "Don't dish what you can't take. Y'all all love drama until you're the ones bleeding from it." She walked out, and nobody moved, because now everybody was bleeding. The second Sierra walked out of Frost Bistro, leaving behind the emotional wreckage she'd lit on fire, the room fell into a stunned, eerie silence until all hell broke loose again. Young Jock was pacing like a man who just discovered his entire world was built on sand. Kendra was wiping tears while staring daggers at Kirk. Rashida was shaking her head like she finally accepted the truth about her husband. And Mendeecees was standing in the middle of it all, furious, confused, and ready to choke somebody. But just when everyone thought Sierra was the ultimate villain, a new twist cracked the whole situation open even wider. And it didn't come from her. It came from a phone buzzing on the bar counter. Jock's assistant's phone. The same assistant who had been helping Sierra pull the strings. The screen lit up with a notification, and Rashida just happened to glance over, then stopped dead in her tracks. It wasn't a text. It wasn't an email. It was a payment confirmation, a fresh deposit, from a sender nobody expected. Rashida snatched the phone immediately and screamed, "Y'all, look at this!" Everyone turned as she held the screen up high. The name on the payment hit the room like a nuclear bomb. Yandy Smith. The room erupted. Mendeecees spun around so fast he almost slipped. "What the hell is my wife's name doing on that?" His voice cracked between rage and disbelief. Jock backed up, looking lost. Kendra gasped so hard she dropped her purse. Rashida's eyes went wide with horror. Even Kirk whispered, "Ah, hell, not again." The assistant covered her mouth, shaking uncontrollably as everyone crowded around her like sharks circling blood. "Why is Yandy paying you?" Mendeecees roared, slamming his hand on the bar so hard cups fell over. The assistant burst into tears. I can't say. She told me not to." Wrong answer. Mendeecees stepped forward, trembling with betrayal. "You better tell me right now before I walk out this building and never come back home." The assistant sobbed harder. "I didn't know it was going to get this bad. She said it was just supposed to expose Kirk, not Kendra, not Jock." The room froze again, the chaos shifting like the air got heavier. Rashida's voice cracked. "Expose Kirk? For what?" The assistant hesitated, then whispered the twist that made everyone's blood run cold. Yandy said Kirk was trying to sabotage Mendeecees' businesses behind the scenes. She wanted Jock to see what kind of man Kirk really was. She said he was a snake. Mendeecees was shaking. "My wife did what?" The assistant nodded desperately. "She didn't want to hurt Kendra. She just wanted to expose Kirk. Sierra took it further on her own. I swear. Now it made sense. Sierra wasn't the mastermind. She was the weapon. Yandy was the one pulling the strings, the one with reach, the one with strategy, the one who always played chess, not checkers. She wanted Kirk exposed, wanted Mendeecees protected, wanted the truth to come out, but never meant for everything to spiral into this multi-household explosion. At least, that's what the assistant claimed. Jock staggered backward like he'd been shot. So this whole thing, all this, was Yandy? Mendeecees grabbed his head, eyes glassy with betrayal. And just when the shock reached its peak, the bistro doors suddenly swung open again, but this time with a force that made the walls shake. In stormed Yandy Smith herself, eyes blazing, breathing hard like she came ready for war. Everyone froze in place like statues. Even Mendeecees couldn't speak. Yandy looked around the destroyed room, at the broken trust, the spilled drinks, the shattered friendships, and then finally locked eyes with her husband. Her voice was low, trembling, and deadly serious. "Before any of you judge me," she said, stepping forward, "you need to hear the real reason I did it." The entire room leaned in. Kirk gulped. Rashida braced herself. Kendra wiped her tears. Mendeecees whispered, "Yandy, please don't tell me." Yandy lifted her chin and said the sentence that sucked all the air out of the room. Because Kirk wasn't just meeting with Kendra. He was meeting with someone else, someone none of you know about. And if I didn't expose him, he was about to ruin all of you. Cameras cut. Episode ends. And now, with Yandy standing in the middle of Frost Bistro, like the final boss in a scandal nobody was prepared for, with Mendeecees torn between fury and confusion, with Rashida trying to hold it together, with Kendra trembling after seeing her entire career flash before her eyes, and with Kirk Frost sitting there realizing he might be connected to something even darker than cheating rumors, the entire storyline has shifted. Because Yandy didn't just walk in with confidence, she walked in with information, the kind that can flip alliances, destroy marriages, and tear apart friendships that have held strong for years. Who was Kirk meeting besides Kendra? What secret person was he involved with that could ruin everybody in that room? Why would Yandy go this far? Paying assistance, setting traps, risking her own marriage just to expose it? And more importantly, what exactly does she know that everyone else doesn't? These questions aren't just messy, they're dangerous. And the next chapter isn't just going to be drama, it's going to be war. So before you go, drop your theories in the comments right now. Who do you think the mystery person is? Was Yandy justified? Or did she go too far? And is Kirk finally caught in something bigger than a cheating scandal? Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because when Chapter 2 drops, Yandy's truth bomb is going to blow the entire cast off the map. Stay tuned. The real fallout is only beginning.